We are live. We are live. How is everybody doing? Friday Night SmackDown has just gone off the air on Fox or around the world, wherever it is. But it's just gone off the air in the United States, certainly on Fox. I know right now, and we'll wait for a few more people to come in, but I know obviously right now we've got AEW Dynamite airing currently on TNT. I don't know. I really don't know what I'm going to do about that going forward. I'm thinking about what is the right way to kind of go with because obviously this is going to be an issue going forward, starting in the summer because of AEW Rampage. Right, this new AEW Rampage show debuts in August on TNT. Everything moves to TBS. Everything moves to TBS in January next year. So I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I think it's a 1 hour show, Rampage, when it debuts. So I think like maybe the best thing for it might be to be something like, I don't know, you watch SmackDown, watch Rampage, and then do a SmackDown post show and a Rampage post show. I don't know what the best way to do that is. So I'm trying to figure that one out. So we'll do this SmackDown reaction stream. I don't hate to call it reviews. So we'll do this SmackDown reaction stream. I won't do a Dynamite one. There's going to be a ton of AEW content dropping on the channel over the course of the next couple of days anyway. Of course, we're going to have so much AEW stuff tomorrow and Sunday. We're going to obviously be doing AEW Double or Nothing watch along and reaction afterwards. Tomorrow we'll do Double or Nothing preview and predictions as well. So any news, which I'm sure there's lots of during this show, by the way. And we will get into SmackDown eventually here. But during this show, Tony Khan, I don't know if you've seen it, but Tony Khan just cut the most unbelievable promo on social media to Nick Khan, the WWE president and chief revenue officer. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's basically talking about the rumors in the Observer today, talking about this WWE and New Japan Pro Wrestling potential relationship. And Tony Khan says there's only room for one Khan in pro wrestling, not a Connecticut con man. All this kind of, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's so great. And I know people look at it and they say, oh, it's he's a mark or he's a money mark or that kind of stuff. No, I love it. I thought it was great. Tavon McKenzie says, hi, what's up? How you doing, Tavon? Gamer Desmond says, what a show. Are you watching AEW right now? Unfortunately not, because we're doing the stream. I'll watch it probably afterwards. Just so much pro wrestling. It's difficult to keep up, especially big weekend, of course. Gamer Desmond says there is a live crowd. Yes, there is a live crowd for Daly's Place, of course. There's going to be an even bigger one for Double or Nothing on Sunday as well. So it's a very exciting time. But look, let's get into SmackDown. Let's talk about it because, obviously, fantastic show. I mean, I would say overall, what a show, a great show. When I'm watching this show, SmackDown, it baffles me, to be honest. It baffles me that this is the same company that produces Monday Night Raw. I mean, they are. I mean, I know we like to talk about separation between the shows and having different shows and a different feel, a different presentation, all that kind of stuff. But I mean, Raw, it feels like it's done by a different company in the sense that SmackDown is very watchable, very compelling, great characters, great storylines, and then you've got this debacle on Monday Night Raw, or on Monday nights in terms of Raw on the USA Network. They are completely not just different shows in presentation, but just different shows in terms of being watchable. I mean, Monday Night Raw, at times it's laborious because it's 3 hours, all of it, and it's awful. It's awful. And then you've got a show like SmackDown tonight when it's fantastic. What a great show. Very enjoyable show. Not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Not perfect, but enjoyable. Absolutely enjoyable. Donald Music React says, I thought AEW was on Wednesdays. It usually is, but because of the NBA playoffs, it's preempted. And it's going to be the case for a couple of weeks, unfortunately. It's part of the reason why they're moving to TBS next year is because with the NBA and with the NHL being on TNT, they would be moved all the time. So it benefits Dynamite. So let's talk about SmackDown. Now, first of all, I do want to touch on this before we get into the actual show. No Aleister Black or Big E tonight. Why? I have no idea. I honestly, I have no idea. I don't understand. I really don't understand why no Aleister Black and Big E. You finished SmackDown last week. Your big cliffhanging angle, your big cliffhanger, your big angle that gets people excited. The reason to tune in this week is Aleister Black's big return to SmackDown, big return to WWE after like 9 months off of television and confusion whether he would ever come back. You have this big Aleister Black return. You have weeks of vignettes hyping up Aleister Black's return. He cost Big E the Intercontinental Championship. And nothing, nothing from them this week. Bizarre. Just absolutely bizarre. I mean, barely a reference on commentary. I think Michael Cole might have referenced it during the Apollo Crews Kevin Owens match. But apart from that, nothing. Really odd. Really odd. Why? I don't know. I really don't know. Any momentum they once had just feels like poof, disappeared. I really don't understand that. But again, like I said, it wasn't a perfect show, but I thought overall it was a good show. I did think overall it was a good show. Gamer Desmond says, Donald Music Reacts, there is a special weird episode. It's 2 hours, normally weekly show. Donald Music Reacts says, Dominic Mysterio was incredible tonight. I thought he did a good performance. Gamer Desmond said, so would you call this show bad, good, or terrible? In fact, do I have to pick those 3 words? I thought it was a good show. I thought it was much better than Monday Night Raw. That's not that that's hard, but I thought overall there were tons of things in this show that I liked and tons of things that I thought were very watchable and very enjoyable. So speaking of that, the Usos opened the show. They're backstage, Jimmy and Jay. They're hyping up about tag teaming together tonight. It's going to be the first time in over a year that they've teamed as a tag team. And in comes Roman Reigns, the chief gaslighter himself. He comes in, he asks if they're ready. He asks what's the game plan, the intention, the end game here. He says, what's the end game here? And Jimmy says, well, it's easy. The end game is to win. We win the gold. You have the Universal Championship gold. We're SmackDown Tag Team Champions. We all make the family proud. We've all got gold. And Reigns says, oh, I'm happy for you. And he says, good luck. And Jimmy leaves. Jay's there. And then Roman turns to him and says, because you're going to need it. And then he looks at Jay again. He goes, so your brother's talking for you now, is he? And it's just, Reigns didn't wrestle tonight. And to be honest, he wasn't on the screen for a ton of time, Roman Reigns tonight. He was there in this opening backstage segment. He just had, I think he didn't even appear inside the ThunderDome. He just did backstage segments tonight. And it was perfect. It was perfect use of Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns continues to be the best thing, not only on SmackDown, but in the entire WWE. I mean, it is the Roman Reigns show, but it's fantastic. If SmackDown has become a weekly soap of the Roman Reigns soap opera or whatever, the Roman Reigns chapters of his family drama, I will tune in every single week and watch it because it's just that good. It's just that good. It's so compelling. It's so good. And Reigns' performance is so nuanced in how he delivers his lines and the subtlety of manipulating Jey Uso. That's what this whole episode was about. It's all about gaslighting and manipulation and some things bubbling. We just don't really know. I can't really predict where this one's going. I don't know who Reigns' opponent is going to be at Hell in a Cell. I don't even know if he needs one. The story is this strong at this point. It was fantastic. And Reigns, like I said, just the subtle manipulation. It's just brilliant. And Jay says, look, even though I'm teaming with my brother tonight, even though I'm with Jimmy tonight, I'm with you. And again, it just goes back to this storytelling that Roman Reigns his manipulation and his claws are in so deep to Jey Uso at this point that he's turned him against his own twin brother. He's turned him against his own flesh and blood just by manipulation, just by gaslighting, just by weeks and weeks and weeks and months of manipulation and getting into this guy's head of saying, I care about you more than your brother even does. I mean, I'm watching this segment, and as I'm watching it, like I do with Reigns a lot at the moment, I watch him and I just say, why was this guy ever a babyface? I understand he's got the look and I understand he's popular, but he's on another level. He's found his role, Roman Reigns. He truly has found his role as this heel on SmackDown, because in this role, and you have to give credit. You have to give credit to. I mean, I'm first to criticize the writers, and I'm first to criticize the creative process in WWE. Don't get me wrong, but when things are good, you do have to praise them. And I don't know who's writing these segments. Logic suggests to me that probably Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman have a heavy hand in it. I don't know if that's accurate or not. Time will tell, because that story will come out eventually. But man, it's good stuff. It's really good stuff. It's really good television. It's really good content, and I'm glued. I'm riveted to the screen watching it because it's good TV. And that's the difference between SmackDown and Raw. One's bad TV, one's good TV. That's the difference. So after that backstage segment, out come the Street Profits. They cut a promo. Montez Ford, of course, as you would expect, just has charisma for days. And I do watch the Street Profits. Promos, and a little bit sometimes I'm a bit like, I would wish sometimes I feel like they try too hard, or the promos come across as maybe slightly annoying, or a bit boring. But then Montez Ford, in fairness, just took it to a different level and went somewhere else with it, because he was mocking the Samoan dance and the old Usos entrance for Samoa and all that kind of stuff. I popped for that. Montez Ford saying that Roman Reigns lives in Jey Uso's head rent-free, and he stares into the hard cam as he said that. That was very good. This brings out the Usos, and to be honest, seeing them come out together as a tag team for the first time in about a year, it did feel big. It felt like a big momentous moment, and I certainly didn't realize how much we had kind of missed them as a tag team until they came out again. They say the best tag team in the world is back. And Jay, again, this is the great subtlety and the nuances of this story, is that Jay says, look, as Jimmy Uso's talking about beating him and says the best tag team in the world is back, we're going to win the SmackDown tag team titles, we're going to go through you first to get there, all this kind of stuff. Jey Uso's first thing he says, and if you say anything about Roman Reigns, I'll drop you where you stand. And it's such a great line. It's such a great line because he doesn't care about the tag team. He cares about pleasing Roman Reigns. And I just thought that's such a great line. That's such a great line. That's storytelling. That is there. That's storytelling. Now, the Profits say that they're the best tag team in the world right now. We get the Usos saying, welcome to the Uso Penitentiary. It felt like a big deal. And as far as opening segments go and opening 15 minutes of show, I thought it was a great open. I really did. It was hyped up. If you weren't hyped up already about an Usos versus Street Profits match, because you have to remember this was only announced a week ago, so it's only got 7 days worth of hype behind it. WWE did a fantastic job in building this up. They really did. They did a great job in hyping it up. I thought it was a different way to open SmackDown. So many times we open Raw, don't we, where just someone walks to the ring, cut a promo. They do the welcome to Monday Night Raw, and it's sort of, you get the golf applause of, oh, thanks. And this was different. You had the promo backstage, then you had the Street Profits come out, the promo in the ring, the Usos come out, the promo then. You felt hyped for the match. It was a real compelling way to open the broadcast, so I thought that was great. So we come back from the break and we have the Street Profits versus the Usos. I did note this down. It's much easier to tell the Usos apart now, isn't it? Previously, because obviously they're twins. And previously they would have the exact same, obviously, ring attire, the exact same haircut. It was tough. It was really tough. At this point, Jimmy has longer hair. He has a knee brace, so you can tell difference. It's a lot easier for me making my notes. Montez Ford, like I said, during his promo, the guy's just got... He drips with charisma. And not just charisma, his in-ring work, his athleticism is incredible. And this was evident during this match because Montez Ford, he's grabbing a hold and he's mocking the Usos by pulling faces and doing the old Usos chant and all this kind of stuff. It was brilliant. It was great. And that's just what this match was. It was just a great tag team match. And what I enjoyed about it as well is these are two proper tag teams. And what I mean by that is these are two tag teams that have team names. They have a shared entrance. They have similar ring attires. They have double team moves. They have tag team psychology. That's what tag team wrestling should be. Tag team wrestling shouldn't be random singles competitors on the roster being put together. Tag teams are people that have teamed together for a long time. As I mentioned, they have a similar ring attire. They have a team name. They have a finishing move together. All that kind of stuff. It's tag team psychology. They cut off the ring. They cut it in half. They hold the tag rope. They utilize the referee in a way that you can't in singles matches. All that kind of stuff. That's tag team wrestling. And that's what this match was. It was proper tag team wrestling. Now, Jey Uso's thrown into the timekeeper area. Jimmy Uso's thrown over the announce table. Montez Ford was loving the Uso chant in this match. He must have done it like 4 or 5 times. He was loving it. He was loving the smack talk to the Usos during this match. They did a couple of shots of Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman watching backstage, which again is just subtle continuation of the storytelling of Reigns is always watching and he's always looking over Jey Uso and just he's picking his moment, I guess, to attack Jimmy Uso at some point. So Montez Ford was worked over for the majority of the match by the Usos. He was about to go for the hot tag. Jey Uso pulls Angelo Dawkins off the apron. There was a pop-up Samoa drop on Ford for a 2 count, which was a great spot. At this point, my notes get like less detailed because the Tony Khan promo dropped on Nick Khan on social media, which this is a sidebar, but I suppose it just factor into this, is that, you know, it was so, I thought it was so smart. I thought it was so smart by Tony Khan to do that, because you have to remember, AEW Dynamite doesn't air on a Friday night usually, right? Most people expect it to be on a Wednesday night, and it's in a later time slot. They need to find a way to remind everyone, oh, by the way, Dynamite's airing on Friday tonight, and one of our biggest pay-per-views of the year is on Sunday. How do they do that? They take a look online. They see one of the big stories is this WWE New Japan possible working relationship, and Tony Khan goes, right, I'm going to do a promo. I'm going to call out Nick Khan, and we're going to drop it in the first, 20 minutes of SmackDown. Why during that time period? Well, a lot of pro wrestling fans are on social media talking about SmackDown during that time period. If we drop a promo then, we know social media traffic is high. People pay attention. They know at that point, oh, wait a minute, Dynamite's on the Friday. After SmackDown finishes, we'll go and watch Dynamite on TNT. It's very good marketing. It's very good marketing. It's very smart marketing. And I love it. I know people don't like it when AEW calls out WWE or WWE calls out AEW. I find it laughable that people say they don't like that, because people do it on social media every 5 seconds. You know, for some, you can't be a fan of both for whatever reason. You can't just be a fan of pro wrestling on social media. You have to be a WWE fan or an AEW fan, which is ridiculous. You can like pro wrestling. You can like elements of both shows and both brands. You can dislike elements of both shows and both brands. It's called having an opinion. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. Anyway, during the closing moments of the opening match, Montez Ford, I mean, I've said about the guy dripping with charisma and the athleticism that the guy has. He did a dive onto Jey Uso on the outside, and he cleared the top rope. And I say he cleared the top rope. It was like the top rope wasn't even there. He was so high above it. They could have put 2 more ropes above that top rope, and he wouldn't have touched him. It was incredible. It was incredible, an amazing dive. He does it every week, but every time you see it, you just got the athleticism. It's just off the charts. I mean, it really is. It's off the charts. So we go back in the ring. There's a twisting neck breaker by Dawkins on Jimmy Uso for a 2 count. Ford goes for a frog splash, but Jey Uso pulls his brother out the way, working as a tag team. They do a big close-up onto them. Jimmy looks almost a bit surprised that his brother could work as a tag team. Jimmy Uso then hits a super kick on a prone Montez Ford. They get the victory. Now, Michael Cole at this point says on commentary, oh, it's a major upset win. And I was like, major upset? These guys are 6-time WWE Tag Team Champions. It's a big win. They beat a tag team that was champions for, I guess, nearly a year, if you combine their Raw and SmackDown tag team title reign. And I know they haven't competed in nearly a year as a tag team, and the Street Profits have had all this momentum. It's a big win. But a major upset? A 6-time tag team champions, one of the best tag teams in recent WWE history, beating a big tag team? How is that a major upset? It's a big win. It's not a major upset. I don't know about that. And it was the first of many, questionable calls by Michael Cole tonight on SmackDown, but it didn't take me out the moment that much. I thought it was a great match. I thought it's the right call to have the Usos win. It's storyline development. If they've lost there, if they'd had Roman Reigns come out and beat the hell out of Jimmy Uso, okay, that's the story. But you've got time. You've got time between now and the pay-per-view to tell whatever story you want to tell. It doesn't make sense for the Usos to lose here. It makes all the sense in the world to have them win, especially knowing what we know now after the main event. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was a tremendous match. Very much enjoyed it. And it's super compelling stuff. Super compelling stuff. So I enjoyed it immensely. So we then go from that to an interview with Ziggler and Rude backstage. They basically tried to justify the way that the Mysterios won at WrestleMania Backlash. It was because of Rey's paternal instincts. They said that that's what kicked in. They said it's like a grandmother lifting a car off of a grandchild. Now, I don't think I've heard of that before. I understand the idea of like a mother lifting a car off of a child. Not so much sure about a grandmother, considering that might be a stretch for them. But it was interesting. We were about 40 minutes into the show at this point, and it was all about tag teams. Now, rematches, I wasn't massively keen with Ziggler and Rude getting a rematch, because what have they done to deserve one? You have to remember, WWE in December 2018, during the time period that the McMahons came out on Monday Night Raw and told us that we are the authority and it's going to be up to us. We decide who gets the pushes and we will get what we want and all that kind of stuff. During that period of time, WWE said that there were going to be no more rematches, no more championship rematch clauses in contracts. And fast forward 3 years, Ziggler and Rude get a rematch for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. Why? I don't know. I don't know. They lost the WrestleMania Backlash, and last week on SmackDown, it was Dominic Mysterio beat Robert Roode. So what did they do to get a rematch? Nothing. I don't know why. It's ridiculous. I don't know. I don't have an answer to that one. No logic whatsoever. So we then go from the male tag team side to the females tag team side as Natalya and Tamina faced off against the Riot Squad. I put in my notes, talk about a come down, not wanting to be harsh to them, but I just don't care. I just don't care. I think there's a bit of residual heat from myself, and I think a lot of people after that angle on Monday Night Raw, that closed the show. Yes, you're talking Natalya and Tamina closing the show in the main event of Raw this week. And now they're in a spot on SmackDown that no one really cared about. That's why no one cared about it on Raw, because it sucked. It was awful. But it was nice seeing an actual tag team competing in the women's tag team division in the Riot Squad. The Riot Squad attempted to come up with some tag team moves in the match. The issue is that the moves they came up with looked terrible. They just did not look good. But it was good to see the Riot Squad, because I'm all for actually having proper tag teams competing in a tag team division. Who would have thought it? Who would have thought actually having tag teams competing in a tag team division would actually be good entertainment, right? So the story they told here was that Tamina was attacked before the match began. Not that people saw this. I certainly didn't see this, because my feed on BT Sport over here in the United Kingdom was down. So we didn't see Tamina get attacked before the match. So they kind of had to just throw it into the match. They went, obviously Tamina's not on the apron. She got attacked. And if you're watching it, you're like, did she? I don't remember that, because it didn't happen. Nevertheless, Natalya goes for a double sharpshooter. Tamina gets back up on the apron. She beats the hell out of Ruby Riott. They then go to the top rope. Tamina headbutted Ruby Riott, who just fell onto the mat. And in fairness, she sold the hell out of the headbutt. I mean, they're going with the whole Samoan headbutt and Samoans having hard heads, that bizarre stereotype. Anyway, they went with that, and Ruby Riott sold the headbutt great. It was awesome. Tamina then goes for the Superfly Splash, hits it off the top for the victory. Obviously, you would expect the tag team champions to win. I guess it was good to see the Riot Squad back. I just didn't care about it. I just didn't care about the match. But look, it's featuring the women's tag team champions on TV. It was just kind of nothing. It was just kind of there, but it is what it is, I suppose. So backstage, you have the Usos with Adam Pearce. Jimmy Uso says they want the winners of tonight's SmackDown Tag Team title match next week. Adam Pearce says, I can do that. Jimmy Uso leaves. And Jey Uso, again, this is just the great subtlety and subtle storytelling that they were doing. So Jey Uso, after this announcement, he sort of looks really conflicted. He looks frustrated, worried, and it's probably he's worried because he's thinking, I've got to tell Roman Reigns I'm teaming with my brother again, and I told him I was standing with Roman, but I'm standing with my brother once again. And he's already playing this over in my head, going, "Oh, Roman's not going to be happy about this." And he's also thinking, "Well, I'm going to be challenging for the tag team championships next week. That's true, but what if I fail? Failure's unacceptable in the minds of the tribal chief. What happens then?" So he's already thinking, well, I can control what I do, but I can't control what my brother does. If my brother fails, what happens then? He doesn't want to fail. He knows what happens when it comes to failure. And again, it's that kind of stuff that maybe it's just me. Maybe that's the stuff I read into it. But everyone has their own perception of things, isn't it? It's like when you watch a good film, when you watch a good movie, you see your different own interpretations of it. I think it's great. I think it's just real great layered storytelling. And I grew up in an era watching WWE and pro wrestling where some of the best episodes of Raw or SmackDown or whatever had a narrative thread throughout the show. You know, you had your opening segment and you had your main event segment, but you had vignettes or pre-tapes or backstage promos or whatever dotted throughout the show that told a linear story from beginning to end. You had a narrative thread. You don't have that very often nowadays in WWE. You have your opening segment, your main event segment, nothing in between. Sometimes you just have the main event segment that doesn't even correlate to the opening segment. Your opening segment can be it, and they do nothing else regarding that story for the rest of the show. That feels lazy to me because it does feel too regimented, too segmented. For me, I want to have a narrative thread throughout the show because I want to have a reason to watch from the beginning segment to the end segment. And the way you get there is through the narrative thread. So that's what I enjoy. That's what I enjoy. So maybe that's just me that I enjoy that form of storytelling, but I thought it was brilliant. So next up, we had the SmackDown Women's Champion, Bianca Belair. She was facing off against Carmella. Now, before the match, Carmella had an interview. She says that Bayley is right. Bianca Belair won at WrestleMania Backlash in a bit of a shady way. She talks about her achievements, former SmackDown Women's Champion, WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal winner, Money in the Bank winner. Before the match, though, Bayley, she jumps the guardrail and sits on commentary yelling ding dong, which was tremendous. There was a match that went on during this period of time. It was Bianca Belair versus Carmella, but they were not the stars of the show. Bayley was the star of the show during this match because she was on commentary and it was brilliant. I mean, it was beyond entertaining with Bayley on commentary during this one. She was just tremendous. Absolutely tremendous. So Carmella hits an X Factor on the apron. She gets a 2 count. Bayley called Bianca Belair Bianca Belair on commentary, which I thought was such a great line. There were so many great lines by Bayley during this segment. It was so good. And it's such a polar opposite than her character in NXT and the Hug Life. And I know that's a while ago now, but you still feel even now that Bayley just every single week just eases more and more into this just over the top righteous role model character. And she was phenomenal on commentary. If they ever want to have Bayley on commentary once her career's over, there certainly is a place for her. Because, and I don't mean a commentator like a straight laced down the middle babyface commentator. I mean a Bobby the Brain Heenan, Jesse Ventura, over the top a color commentator that's just a heel, likes all what the heels does, incredibly biased, all that kind of stuff. That's what Bayley can be once she retires because she's got that in her. She was brilliant. She was absolutely brilliant on commentary. I loved every second of it. She was fantastic. And she kind of told, I thought this was good as well, is she told the story as to really what her problem is with Bianca Belair. This was good storytelling here. She says, as the role model in WWE, I need to show everyone that they're being lied to when it comes to Bianca Belair and her cheating to win. I thought that was as good of an explanation as we've got behind this Bianca Belair and Bayley storyline. I think that's as good of an explanation as we've got at all. I thought it was a great explanation as to why she's got such a problem. I'm the role model. I can't, as a role model, I can't put up with someone lying to you. I can't put up with the champion, the woman's champion of this brand lying to the audience. I can't do that. Now, I did think when I was watching the match, because the match was very good, I did think that at some point, if we get a more in-depth Bianca Belair versus Carmella feud, I'd be very much into that as well. But to be honest, like I said, I was trying to focus on the match, but Bayley she was killing it on commentary. She was fantastic. So we had a super kick on the apron by Carmella, gets another 2 count. I did think this as well, that Carmella, when she won the SmackDown Women's Championship, when was that, 2018, right after WrestleMania, cashed in Money in the Bank, there was a lot of criticism, wasn't there, at the time, that she wasn't ready for that spot and maybe she wasn't good enough for that spot. And I think that's right. I think they pushed her into a spot that I don't think she was ready for at the time, in ring, as a character, whatever. But now, if you watch a Carmella match now, she's very good. She's very good in the ring. She's really upped her game. She's so much better than she previously was. If anything, she would make a better champion now than she did in 2018 because she wasn't ready then. She's ready for it now. Anyway, we get the closing matches of the win. We get the KOD by Bianca Belair. She defeats Carmella. And this was really, for me, the best moment of this. Is that Michael Cole starts to stumble on his words once we get to the finish. He goes KOD by Belanca. He merges Bianca Belair into Belanca, and Bayley just has a field day with this. He goes KOD by Belanca, and Bayley's like, Belanca, what are you on about, Michael Cole? And she stands up and then starts shouting. I thought it was brilliant. Michael Cole was really struggling to not burst out laughing. I mean, I would have burst out laughing. I thought it was hilarious. And it's funny because as soon as Bayley shows up, Michael Cole's already got his head down. He's already like that because he knows here we go. Because Bayley, every time she does her entrance, she scream at Michael Cole, won't she? So I thought they were just hysterical on commentary. I thought it was great. Again, the match was secondary. It was all about Bayley at this point. I thought it was hilarious. I thought she did a fantastic job on commentary and just a really enjoyable segment. That's again, it's great character work. And like I said before, it's just funny because you watch this show and go, well, this is so entertaining. This is a fun watch. This is a good watch. As I mentioned, it's not perfect. Parts of the show that we can critique, sure, absolutely, but it's a fun show. It's a good show to watch. And in comparison to Raw, you wouldn't even know it's the same company. Honestly, it's like you've got, I don't know, a good episode of Raw in the Attitude Era on a Friday, and Monday night you've got WCW Monday Nitro in 2000. It's awful. They're so different. They're so different, and not in a good way. Not in a good way. So we then go to a promo with Rey Mysterio and Dominic Mysterio. They're talking about how they won't lose tonight. Wasn't much to it, to be honest. Then we had Seth Rollins come out. Seth Rollins came out and cut a promo, and as to be expected, Seth Rollins was in an absolutely vivacious, there's a word for you, vivacious suit this week. It was kind of drifting into Razor Ramon territory. He had like palm trees and all this kind of stuff on it. It was very fetching, very fetching. He's the king of drip, whatever that means. He comes out and he says, I'm not here to talk, I'm here to fight. He calls out Cesaro and says, I'm going to want to call you out to finish this off once and for all. And then we get to the traditional evil Seth Rollins laugh. Do you remember that when he was the member of the Authority and he had the evil Seth Rollins laugh? He did the evil Rollins laugh because, of course, there's no Cesaro. Cesaro is selling the attacks of WrestleMania Backlash and last week, because Cesaro was injured by Rollins when he attacked him after WrestleMania Backlash against Roman Reigns and on SmackDown last week. And he says that Cesaro is not here tonight to ruin Seth Rollins' birthday, because it was Seth Rollins' birthday. Now, I must say, I know I saw quite a few people maybe criticizing this segment, or people have criticized the Seth Rollins character. I will say I like the new Seth Rollins character. And the reason I like him is because it's odd. It's kind of like Robert De Niro, Cape Fear mixed with, I don't know, Wolf of Wall Street. It's difficult to put it. It's difficult to nail it down. But basically, Seth Rollins' new character is that he wears these crazy suits, but these suits kind of reflect his own psyche at this point. He's this unhinged, weird, crazy guy that can go from, just pure moments of rage and insanity where he blacks out and he's not in control of his actions, to snapping back into it a second later when he's joking, he's laughing, he's doing bad jokes, and it's weird, but it's quite compelling. Now, this was part of the promo I didn't like, is Rollins goes, well, my team has obtained exclusive audio from Cesaro's hospital room. First of all, I was shocked that he said hospital. On WWE programming, saying the word hospital, I thought Vince McMahon was going to have a fit backstage. But anyway, they then play this audio of someone groaning, which is ironic because I think whenever they played this joke, the whole audience metaphorically groaned because it was terrible. It was so Vince McMahon, Bruce Pritchard humor. It was you could just tell that they got the promo that day, and Vince McMahon looks over it, and his notes on that scene was maybe put someone in groaning. That's funny. That's Vince McMahon. Ha ha ha. That's funny. That you can just tell. It was so Vince McMahon humor. It was the only bit of this promo I didn't like. Was that part of it. So Rollins then says, look, last week I blacked out. I don't know what happened. He says, I'm a man of integrity and responsibility, and I have to place some of the blame on. And then he looks into the hard camera and says, you watching at home. He says that the WWE Universe brainwashed Cesaro into disrespecting Rollins, and that Cesaro and the WWE Universe made Cesaro think he deserves opportunities that he didn't earn. And Rollins then gets really wide-eyed. He's doing the wide eyes again. And then he starts singing happy birthday to him. So he goes from, again, wide-eyed, crazy Seth Rollins into singing happy birthday. And I saw, again, some criticism on social media of, well, that was certainly a promo. That was certainly odd. That certainly was very, polar opposites. Went up here, then down here, then left, then right. Did all this kind of weird stuff. But I think that's the point. Seth Rollins' current character is a guy that his ring attire, his outfits, they reflect his psyche. He wears crazy suits because he's crazy. He goes into complete fits of rage and insanity, and he switches from that into joking, comedy, and doing bad jokes and just tranquility and calm in the space of mere seconds. That's very compelling, and that's crazy, and that's weird, and it's kind of frightening. At the same time, it's odd, it's wacky, but it's also, like I said, compelling and slightly terrifying. And I think I like it. Now, I could have done with that promo not having the stupid humor in there of the groaning, but I liked it. And I like the new Rollins gimmick. And maybe I'll sour on it eventually, but I thought it was fun. I do think these Rollins promos are fun, and I think the Rollins character is fun. I prefer this than the Messiah character. I thought the Messiah character was good, but I think it ran its course fairly quickly. I think there's legs in this character. I do think there's legs in it. So I'm not completely ruling it out yet. So next up we had Kevin Owens versus Apollo Crews, non-title match. No entrance for Kevin Owens. I think they ran out of time on this one because this was quicker than a hiccup. So it was odd because I was thinking, this Kevin Owens, he was wrestling for the Universal Championship earlier this year. He was facing Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble. Nearly won the title, remember? So you have a fast start. Kevin Owens hits a cannonball. There's a swanton bomb by KO for a 2 count. Owens then hits a stunner, seemingly has the match won. And then Commander Aziz hits the Nigerian nail for a DQ. So Kevin Owens wins the match by disqualification. And then KO, this was, they touched on this later on in the show, but Kevin Owens sold the hell out of this Nigerian nail. He sold this Nigerian nail like something else. Like he was acting like he couldn't breathe, like his throat had. He might as well have had a nail for a thumb. That's how Kevin Owens was selling it. Like he had literally poked a hole in the guy's throat. It was crazy. But Kevin Owens had Apollo Crews beaten in mere seconds there, and I guess it's WWE classic booking. In the sense of how do you get someone to have a title opportunity? Well, of course, you beat the champion. That's what they always do. They always do this. It's so frustrating of why can't you have someone be a credible championship challenger by just winning matches? Win matches, win matches, win matches, become a number one contender. It's always, I had the champion beat or I beat the champions. I get an opportunity. And it's kind of, that isn't how it works in the world of boxing or MMA. You don't face off against the champion in a non-title match. You go, well, I beat you, see, so I'm going to have a match against you. And I know the response to that will be, well, it's not boxing, it's not MMA. I get that. But sometimes it's just the logic of that. But it felt like this was something that was probably dangerously close to being cut because they were running out of time. And I mentioned about the Big E and Aleister Black situation. Maybe it was cut for time. If that is the case of why it was cut for time, you had your main event closing angle last week cut for time. That seems very odd. So I didn't really get that. We went to something that wasn't odd, something that was very compelling, which was another Roman Reigns and Jey Uso promo. So Paul Heyman brings in Jey Uso, the right-hand man to Roman Reigns. Reigns says, so I see you got your match next week. That's what you want to do, is it? If so, why did you tell me you were with me when you're with your brother once again? What's happened to me? What's happened to us? And again, it's gaslighting Roman Reigns. It's brilliant. And then he goes in even harder. He says, all I've ever wanted is the best for you. It's the only thing that's ever mattered to me. Everything we've done over the course of the last few months is to elevate you. You close SmackDown when you're with me. You're in main events. You won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. But as soon as your brother returns, you're relegated to the opening match. I don't want you to go back to the place where people look at you and say, which one are you again? And Jey Uso goes, you know what? I never thought of it like that. And Reigns just looks at him and says, well, maybe you should. And again, it's just brilliant. It was just such a great segment. They could play these segments throughout the whole show, and I wouldn't have a problem with it. Get the Roman Reigns, Soprano sitcom, because that's what it is at this point. It's the Roman Reigns Soprano show on SmackDown. It's just brilliant. He is the king of gaslighting. He is the king of manipulation, and it's just fantastic character work by Roman Reigns, and it's so compelling. It's so compelling. Reigns doesn't need to wrestle. Reigns doesn't need to wrestle. He didn't wrestle on the show. He didn't even appear inside the ThunderDome. He didn't need to. He was just in backstage segments and pre-tapes for the whole show, and it was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Like I said, it's like a television show in the sense that I know we're watching a television show, but it's like a drama. It's like a Sopranos on the HBO, and I know I'll probably get ridiculed for that. No, it's not the Sopranos, but it's like WWE equivalent, WWE version, and it's a very compelling television. It's very watchable. You could watch it for days. You know what Reigns is doing. He's manipulating Jey Uso. He's gaslighting him, and he's doing it only for his own selfish needs and his own selfish wants. It doesn't make it any less compelling, though, does it? Because you're glued to it, and Reigns speaks in that sort of softer tone, that quieter tone that makes you listen in a little bit more. It feels a bit more sinister, doesn't it? And it's just great. It's such great television. That's what it is. It's great television. So we move from that to Rick Boogs once again, doing Shinsuke Nakamura's entrance. Of course, Boogs made his debut on SmackDown last week. Once again, gives an introduction for Shinsuke Nakamura, plays the guitar. And I saw, again, this was surprising. that some people didn't like this on social media. Some people were saying, "Oh, his guitar playing was terrible" or something like that. I didn't think it was that bad. Again, I thought it was good. I thought it was interesting. The entrance was fine. The real entertaining thing throughout all of this isn't Shinsuke Nakamura, isn't Rick Boogs. It's Pat McAfee getting up on commentary and jumping around, waving his phone in the air like he's in a conference, jumping over Michael Cole, moshing with Michael Cole. Oh, it's brilliant. Pat McAfee is so good in his role. And during various big moments of the show, Pat McAfee's standing up. He's getting animated at ringside. He's screaming, he's shouting. He's there. Michael Cole was in a suit. Pat McAfee's there in a shirt and shorts. Just being Pat McAfee. And that was my only concern. Because you can see it on the channel. I did a video when they announced Pat McAfee as the new color commentator for SmackDown. I said if they let Pat McAfee be Pat McAfee, they won't have a problem. I referenced Jesse Ventura earlier. I referenced Bobby the Brain Heenan. These were characters. Yes, they called some of the action. Yes, they told the story where needed. But these were characters. Pat McAfee's a character. I'm not saying Pat McAfee's Bobby Heenan or Jesse Ventura. I'm saying he's a character. He's Pat McAfee. And he does a great job on commentary. He really does a great job on commentary. He's incredibly... Even, like I said, his voice is good for it. His character is great for it. And he just makes it even more entertaining. And it's just little things, like I said, of when you're seeing a big match and you see him getting animated at ringside, and it's Pat McAfee being Pat McAfee, and it's very, very, it's excellent. It's absolutely excellent. So this leads to a match between Shinsuke Nakamura and Chad Gable. Now, before the match, of course, Otis is there with his Alpha Academy teammate. Otis attacks Nakamura before the match begins. I mean, what happened to Otis, by the way? This was a guy that's heading to WrestleMania last year. He's got one of the most compelling storylines with Mandy Rose. He wins the Money in the Bank. People are thinking he might become the Universal Champion. And now he's in a tag team with Chad Gable. Not that that's a bad thing, but, I mean, he's so not a part of the show. His tag team partner got released. Just a lot can change. A lot can change. And I don't think it's necessarily his fault. I don't know if he was necessarily right for that spot. It's difficult to go back in time and think about what was going on last year, but I still contest to this day that it wasn't the wrong decision to put that Money in the Bank briefcase on Otis at the time. Knowing what we know now wasn't the right decision, but at the time, it felt like there was a chance. But Vince McMahon, like Vince McMahon does, he kind of just moves on very quickly, and that's what happened. So Gable hits 2 belly-to-belly suplexes for a 2 count. He goes for a moonsault. Nakamura rolls out the way and hits a kick. King Corbin, though, then shows up at ringside and takes his crown back. Nakamura hits the Kinshasa kick to Gable for the victory, but we've got a post-match angle where Corbin is shouting that he's the king, and as he's just about to put the crown back on his head, Boogs attacks Corbin from behind, which gives Nakamura the opportunity to pick the crown back up, put it on his head. I think no one cares about the crown stuff, to be honest. I was more entertained by the Nakamura and Boogs pairing and the Nakamura entrance. I don't really care for the crown stuff. It feels very reminiscent of Bret Hart having a feud in the 90s over his jacket being stolen. I'd rather Corbin not be the king anymore. I'd rather him just be Baron Corbin again or something. The whole King of the Ring gimmick's outdated as it is, let alone with Corbin, who's been doing it for over 2 years at this point. I just don't really care for it. I'm kind of just done with it. And I don't know what match went long tonight on SmackDown. I really don't. But this match was very short, and it was the same as the Kevin Owens one. That was very short as well. And I guess the argument could be made that the match was secondary. It didn't matter. It was all about the angle, right? It was all about the post-match angle, and that was it. So I don't know what that was. We then had Kevin Owens, and I mentioned Kevin Owens was selling the Nigerian nail earlier on. I mean, he was really selling it in this backstage segment. So he's backstage, he's laying on the trainer's table, I guess, and he's clutching his throat, and he's going, hey, Adam Pearce, he's going, give me Apollo Crews for the title, get rid of Aziz, doing all this kind of stuff. And Adam Pearce says, you're a tough SOB, I'll give you the title match next week, and Commander Aziz is banned from ringside. I love Kevin Owens. I'm a big Kevin Owens fan, and Kevin Owens is great, and he's one of my favorite talents on the roster, and I think he's a great guy as well. This segment was awful. It was awful. It was some of the worst acting you've seen from Kevin Owens. It was an oversell. It just wasn't good. It just wasn't good. He was trying, bless him. He was trying to get the Nigerian nail over. He was going for that. But, man, it was just not good. It was not good. But we've got an Intercontinental Championship match next week, in addition to having a SmackDown Tag Team title match. We've got a couple of title matches next week. So then, just before our main event, we have Rey Mysterio backstage. Dominic Mysterio's coming up to him. Rey's doing his pre-match ritual. He's doing a small prayer, it looks like. We go to commercial. We come back. Rey Mysterio's been attacked. Rey Mysterio's been attacked backstage. He'd been left by Dominic, and now he's complaining he's been attacked, and he's complaining about having injured ribs. So straight away you go, okay, they're doing the same thing they did at WrestleMania Backlash, it looks like. So the Dirty Dogs are then in the ring. They look confused. They feign like they don't know what's going on, even though you know it's them that did it. They say, well, we want a fair fight. Don't look at us. It wasn't us. And they say, well, look, if Rey Mysterio can't compete, and if the tag team can't compete, it's a forfeit. We'll win the match. Backstage, you got some agents and some referees around Rey saying cancel the match, all this kind of stuff. And Dominic says, no. Rey stepped up for me at WrestleMania Backlash. I'm going to do it for him. And Rey Mysterio's going, oh, no, don't do it. And Dominic runs out to the ring. Dolph then says, and I was surprised by this line. I don't think it was a scripted line, but Pat McAfee repeated it on commentary, which made me kind of doubt that. Dolph says, well, it's like child abuse, given the fact that they could go 2-on-1 with Dominic. It's not, considering he's an adult and a trained wrestler. I was a bit like, I don't think that's a line that was scripted. That felt a bit odd. So Dominic Mysterio is facing them both. They're doing, like I said, the mirror of what happened at WrestleMania Backlash, which I wasn't massive on anyway, but they're doing it again here. And like I said before, they did this last week with Dominic Mysterio. In the same vein that obviously Rey Mysterio's made a career, especially in WWE, but he's made a career on being the underdog. He's being portrayed as the ultimate underdog in WWE. And that underdog is being based around his size. He's a smaller guy, yet he managed to win the World Championship, managed to overcome all the odds. And WWE are trying to portray Dominic Mysterio as an underdog. Obviously, the issue is Dominic Mysterio isn't small. So they have to find a different way to portray Dominic as an underdog in the same vein as his father. And whereas Rey Mysterio had to overcome his size, Dominic Mysterio has to overcome his inexperience and his youth. That's what they try and do here. And I don't know why, but it just doesn't hook me in. I think it's just because I just don't believe it. Not that Dominic Mysterio isn't young or isn't inexperienced. He is. I just struggle to hook that in. I don't know if it's the presentation of it. It just feels a bit too forced. You know, the commentators are constantly saying, oh, he's inexperienced. I mean, at points in this match, you had Pat McAfee and Michael Cole saying that it was impossible. There was zero chance Dominic Mysterio was going to win. And as most people watching wrestling would know that it's a work, 99% of them would know it's a work, when the commentators are saying that, they might as well give away the finish and say Dominic Mysterio retains. Because you're telling everyone what's going to happen. So the match happens. Dominic Mysterio faces Rude and Ziggler 2-on-1. Dominic, this was a really dumb thing in the match I didn't understand. Dominic Mysterio kept crawling to the corner where nobody was and reaching out for a tag. I understand they were trying to get sort of like, it's habit, or he keeps thinking that his dad's there, all that kind of stuff. But it was very odd. Why are you reaching out to no one that's there? Ziggler did kind of reacted to this well. He goes into the corner, holds the tag rope, which was quite fun. And like I said, you could tell that obviously Dominic Mysterio, he is inexperienced. I think for the amount of experience he has, he's very, very good, and he's been very good for the last year. There was talks at the time when he debuted last year that he needed an extra year, and I think he's done excellent. But he was working here with two of arguably the most experienced talents on the roster and reliable talents on the roster in Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode. This was completely by design, I think, which is probably a good thing for him. Now, I thought, again, this is the point where Michael Cole and Pat McAfee start going, there's no way he can do this. That's a quote. There's zero chance of him winning. And it's kind of like, well, you might as well give away the finish that he's going to win there. Again, you're forcing it too hard. You're telling the audience the direction that you're going in. So we get the Famouser for a 2 count. There's a double team on Dominic for another 2 count. And then wouldn't you know it, the music hits, and once you have music hit in a match, it's game over. That is the most deadly finisher in all of pro wrestling. It's not the end of days, it's not the F5, it's not the AA, it's not the tombstone. The most devastating finisher in pro wrestling, of course, is the distraction roll-up. Yes, the distraction roll-up, and you get distracted by music. Oof, can't kick out that one. Because music hits, out comes Rey Mysterio. Dominic rolls up Rude for the victory, and they retain the tag team titles. Distraction roll-up. We got to get one show with a distraction roll-up. So I didn't care for this main event, really. I didn't care for the finish. I didn't care for the angle. Music as a distraction, again. Roll-up for the victory, again. Whatever. out come the Usos. They confront the Mysterios. Obviously, they're going to be facing off for the SmackDown Tag Team titles in the main event next week, and the show goes off the air. It felt very rushed, and there were a couple of matches in this show that felt very rushed. This felt rushed. The Nakamura match felt rushed. The Apollo Crews versus Kevin Owens match felt rushed. I just assumed that Street Profits Usos match went very long, or certainly went over time, because a lot of stuff felt rushed. Very, very rushed. So I'm not really sure what that was. But as I said, we've got the big main event next week. No Aleister Black or Big E. I don't understand it. The only explanation I can think of is that it got cut for time. But the fact it got cut for time, I think, is a bit of a joke, to be honest, considering that was the closing scene of last week. It was the closing scene. It was a big return. So obviously, after a big return, you would think to capitalize on that and feature that at least in a vignette or at least a promo, and that's not what they did. So I really didn't get that. Really didn't get that at all. But I guess we'll get news about it. Like I said, the only thing I can assume is that it was cut for time. But even then, I don't really buy that. I think that's lazy. But look, overall, I thought it was an excellent show. There weren't obviously points of it that I didn't enjoy, but for the majority of it, I thought it was excellent. SmackDown continues to be a very watchable show. It's obviously the A show, and it's compelling, and it's just the polar opposite to Monday Night Raw, which is a bore, 3 hours, laborious, and bad television. Difference between Raw and SmackDown: good television versus bad television. That's the only difference. But look, guys, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on Friday Night SmackDown tonight? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved in the community. Drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube, get the rankings, and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestling News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right corner of the screen right now. Or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or have you come across this video today. And I'll speak for you again very, very soon.